So along with the Takashi Uchiyama Jezreel Corrales upset and Ryuichi Taguchi's successful defense against Juan Jose Landaeta, we also had Kohei Kono defending his WBA World Super Flyweight Championship against contender Inthanon Sithchamuang. Um, Kohei Kono is a fairly recent champion. He's had his title for a couple years now. Some of you may remember him from being on PBC last year on a Chicago Illinois card against Koki Kameda, where he defeated Kameda by a pretty damn competitive but clear decision for Kono. They managed to hurt each other. Kono dropped Kameda, and I mean, it was just a competitive fight all the way through, in spite of being marred by some, referee antics. Of the referee was just out of control in that fight. He was acting a fool. But in this fight, Kono versus Inthanon, we had no such issues with the referee so much, except for one thing that I'll mention in just a moment. It was a pretty dominant display from Kono. He won just about every round. I only gave Inthanon one round, maybe a couple of swing rounds here, but I still shaded him to Kono. Kono came out fairly cautious. He allowed Inthanon to get into a little bit of a groove. Inthanon gave him some trouble early, but Kono's, as soon as he started to find his rhythm and start letting his hands move, I mean, it was pretty much all Kono from the third to the 12th. Kono is a guy that has a combination punching style. He's a pretty tall guy for the weight, or for compared to most opponents, 5'5.5" at 115 pounds. On the taller side. He was definitely taller than Inthanon, and he was able to use both his reach and his timing, as well as the fact that he's a strong fighter, a guy with good stamina base, and a guy who throws a lot of volume in order to just overwhelm Inthanon overall. He dropped Inthanon towards the end of the fourth round. I believe there was about 15-20 seconds left when he dropped him at the end of the fourth round with a clean 1-2, clean two-piece jab, right hand cross. Dropped Inthanon. Inthanon got up. He survived. There was only a few seconds left in the round by the time he got up and the ref counted. So he survived that round. Fifth round, he came out looking like he had recovered pretty well. And Kono wound up dropping him again late in that round. In spite of the fact that he was taking his time most of the round, he wasn't jumping on a hurt opponent the way some guys like to do in chess to see just how hurt the guy was. Albeit the knockdown that Kono scored towards the end of this round was a little bit of a controversial one due to the fact that, in spite of the fact that Kono had landed a clean shot just before the right hand to the body, he landed a right hand to the body, as well as in the process of landing that right to the body, he had a clash of heads with Inthanon. So he had a clash of heads with Inthanon, and then he kind of threw a left hook, which cuffed Inthanon kind of behind the head and just kind of pulled him down. So in theory, the ref could have ruled that a slip, but he seemed to be paying more attention to the right hand to the body as opposed to the head clash or the pull down, and he wound up ruling it a knockdown. Inthanon wasn't really badly hurt. You could tell he was still a little bit stunned, but Kono wasn't able to follow up or finish him off or anything. There was only about 15 seconds left in the round when he got up, so he managed to recover, end out the round. But that was another 10-8 round for Kono, which widened the scorecards by that point, almost beyond competitiveness. He finally dropped Inthanon again in the seventh round. He hurt him pretty early in the round with a series of right hands to the head. Tried to pin Inthanon against the ropes. Inthanon started fighting back really strong. Landed a couple good left hands of his own on an open Kono looking to finish the job. Kono, however, eventually kept landing right hands. Dropped Inthanon in spite of the fact that Inthanon had landed a couple of good body shots on Kono, even some that strayed kind of low. Kono managed to drop Inthanon. Inthanon got up and kept fighting back valiantly, and he pretty much was able to survive the round with a fierce get back. Basically, he went to Kono's body, managed to stave off Kono's attack, and take some of the starch out of the punches that Kono was trying to finish him with. So good survival job by Inthanon in the seventh. The rest of the fight was pretty much still controlled by Kono all the way through. It was a pretty good action fight, albeit a little bit more on the tactical side and not as much drama as say the Taguchi versus Landaeta fight, which was good two-way action all the way through. Kono pretty much controlled this fight from the front to the back was able to, control the distance, control Inthanon with the right hand lead as well as the left hook. He didn't throw too many jabs because he's an orthodox fighter fighting a southpaw. The jab is a little bit more difficult to land for most orthodox fighters against southpaws, so he pretty much disposed with it for the most part. And interestingly enough, Inthanon kind of disposed with his own jab for the most part. He was looking to load up on the left hand, both to the head and to the body. To the left hand to the body is something that Inthanon probably should have used a little bit more, although he would have opened himself to more often to the clean right hands that Kono was landing up top. And those of course were the things that mostly hurt him and of course dropped him 2 of the 3 times. So with this win, Kono puts himself in excellent position to get some more big paydays. I'm going to release another video talking about the ratings for this fight as well as the entire card. Did excellent ratings in Japan. This is a big part of the reason why a lot of these fighters in Japan, you got to go over to them and defeat them the way Jezreel Corrales did, because of the fact that they bring such high TV ratings in Japan that it's like you have to really make it worth their while in order to travel overseas, whether it be to Thailand, to the United States, to the United Kingdom, and so on and so forth. And incidentally, that might be in Kohei Kono's future, in the near future. Right now, the WBA is trying to consolidate all of their titles at each weight, and while Kono is the Super WBA champion at Super Flyweight, Luis Nica Concepcion, is the WBA interim champion at Super Flyweight. So these are the 2 titleists for the WBA at Super Flyweight, and they're mandating that these 2 need to meet up at some point in the near future. They don't have to meet up right away, so Kono's got another optional defense before he meets up with Concepcion, and the same for Concepcion. Of course, recently, a couple weeks ago, Juan Francisco Estrada, the WBA and WBO flyweight champion, called out Concepcion. He wanted to move up to fight him, so that's a potential opportunity for him. Estrada could also fight Kono. That's a possibility. Estrada would definitely be willing to travel to Japan to fight Kono if need be, considering the fact that he defeated Brian Valoria in Macau, China, to win the titles initially. Let's see. We also have Kono possibly in the running to fight against Kal Yafai, or vice versa rather. Kal Yafai of the United Kingdom. He's a rising up and comer. Just came off of a brilliant knockout over Dixon Flores, who had went longer against the WBC Super Flyweight champion Carlos Cuadras. Khalid Yafai has been saying that he wants Eddie Hearn to get him the Kohei Kono fight. So there's a distinct possibility that we could either see Yafai travel to Japan to try to dethrone Kono, or if they make the money worth it, Kono may be heading on over to the United Kingdom to fight Yafai. Of course, Roman Gonzalez is looking to headline his own card next up. It's looking like the number 1 prospect for that fight is going to be the WBC Super Flyweight champion Carlos Cuadras, and while Gonzalez is most likely going to be moving up to fight the champion in Cuadras for the WBC, Kono may wind up having the opportunity to fight Estrada on the co-feature of that fight. That's a distinct possibility. Or the other possibility is Estrada could fight Luis Concepcion as the co-feature of that fight. I mean, that's, in my opinion, the way they should build up to that potential Gonzalez-Estrada rematch. If the 2 of them both triumph in their fights, that rematch should be made pretty much immediately, and it really won't have much building to do. Although, the only problem with that is depending on who wins between Estrada and Concepcion and Kono and potentially Khalid Yafai or whoever Kono else fights next, that title will wind up having to be unified. So that would be just one more obstacle standing in the way of Gonzalez versus Estrada 2 coming up within this year. So it's I could technically see Estrada versus Concepcion with the winner fighting Kono versus Yafai. That would be an excellent little mini tournament for the WBA, and would set up probably one of the top opponents for the pound for pounder in Roman Gonzalez. You also at 115 pounds have McJoe Arroyo and Joran Cajas, who still have to get it on. Those 2 that's a mandated title shot for Joran Cajas, the number 1 contender for the IBF, the mandatory contender for the IBF. It went to poor spirits, of course. Arroyo wound up pulling out at the last minute with a hand injury. Hopefully that fight gets made and completed, or who knows? Arroyo may wind up getting stripped and the title gets handed over to Cajas. You never know what may happen, or who knows? Maybe even get some step aside money going, the same way that's going on with Lomachenko and Roman Martinez with the Miguel Burchelt incident. Naoya Inoue is also out there. Although Naoya Inoue has a mandatory as well, he has to fight his mandatory in David Carmona, who he's going to be facing off with, I think, in June. I think that's when that fight is, or actually no, May. Is it at the end of May or the beginning of June? Somewhere in there. And then he has a mandated rematch with Omar Narvaez. I do know that they want to have Inoue versus Narvaez in the United States, try and get Inoue some play in the U.S. So he could play into the future for Kono, as well as the other champions and top prospects at this weight class. But as of right now, Kohei Kono comes off with a victory. He has several big fights ahead of him. He could technically start a bidding war between a lot of these guys and get fat paid for his next fight. Estrada and Gonzalez bringing the HBO money potentially. Naoya Inoue bringing big Japanese TV money for an All Japan title unification showdown. And I mean, just about any other fighter too. Sho Ishida is out there for another All Japan showdown if should he choose to step up to the plate. Ishida is the number 3 contender in the WBA rankings, as well as several other fighters, maybe even Takuma Inoue. Not sure, I doubt they'll step Takuma, the little brother of Naoya, up that quickly. And then there's also Bob Arum's other prospect from Hong Kong, China, Rex Cho. Rex Cho may wind up getting that shot, considering Top Rank got the deep pockets, probably deeper pockets than most of the other promotional companies involved. Those being Tekken Promotions for Quadras and Roman Gonzalez, K2 for Gonzalez as well, and I think Estrada's with Promociones de Pueblo, and then of course Naoya Inoue with Ohashi Promotions and Miguel Arroyo with PR Best, and Joran Akas with Manny Pacquiao's MP Promotions. So a lot of different promotional entities involved. The good thing is it won't seem like there's any beef between the promoters getting in the way of these mega fights happening. A lot of good fights out there to be made. 115-pound super flyweight is probably one of the hottest divisions, or it's about to be one of the hottest divisions. So long as Gonzalez and Estrada move up, I mean, it instantly becomes one of the hottest divisions in boxing. A lot of good fighters, a lot of great matchups to be made, and I'm anxious to see each and every one of them, including any of the ones that Kono happens to be a part of. Props to Kono, and we'll see what's in the future for him.